So I've been doing a lot of thinking about positivity, how to stay positive, how to, just keep that energy going. And I think the best way to do this is to make gratitude a habit. And that might sound strange because usually we think of gratitude as a feeling, but I think it actually can be and should be a conscious decision and action. And that is essentially what I want to focus on in this video, how to make gratitude a conscious decision every day by focusing on one simple exercise that will transform your outlook on life. It is extremely simple. This is not something unheard of. It's very popular and common. It is not revolutionary at all, but it is a very important exercise. And I think as life seems to get very difficult for a lot of us, this would be a timely reminder. I first started getting into the habit of forcing myself to be grateful for things a few years ago. I took a trip to Paris, and while I was there, I met up with a good friend of mine, Maël, who I hadn't seen in like 6-7 years at the time. Naturally, you can imagine we had a lot of catching up to do, and so after walking around the city for hours, we decided to just stop at a cafe, shocker, and just talk and talk over some croissant and coffee. Oh, sorry. Cafe. But as we were talking, she told me about this exercise that she had learned about from a friend of hers, and she had started doing it, and she emphasized how it had changed her life significantly. It was called the gratitude exercise. Okay, there wasn't actually a name, but it had to do with gratitude, so we'll just roll with that. But Maël explained that the point of this exercise is simply to write down in a journal 3 things that you're thankful for at the end of each day. As I said earlier, this is actually a very well-known exercise, like nothing revolutionary. But at the time, when Maël was telling me about it, I hadn't really heard about this exercise in this format. And if I had, I didn't really pay any attention to it. So her telling me about it was actually very timely for me. But what struck me about that interaction was I could see it on her face that this was something that had such a strong influence on her. This was something that had changed her life. And she told me that I had to try this exercise, like I didn't have a choice, and she was going to keep me accountable for a while. So I agreed. And this was a big deal for me because journaling was never really my thing, and it still isn't. But I took her advice, and that night I went back home, reflected on my day, and chose 3 things that I was thankful for and wrote them down. And as the days went by and I did this exercise, I began to fall in love with it. So much so that if I missed a single day, I had this enormous feeling of guilt within me. And over time, I began to feel like this exercise was changing my life as well because I was overwhelmingly more positive than I was before. And I think that's because when you are forced to intentionally focus on the good parts of your day, you're naturally thinking about positive stuff. And so that just improves your mood and your overall mentality. When I first started doing this exercise in Paris, it was very easy for me to find things to be thankful for because I was on this solo trip I had looked forward to for so long. I was free, I just did anything I wanted. I truly was in my element. And so it just seemed like everything was good, and obviously I would want to be thankful for only good things. Nothing bad was happening. But as the weeks and months went by, some days it would be very hard for me to do this exercise. And not necessarily because I was having a lot of bad days. It was more so because some days there's nothing really happening. It just seems like, the day is just boring. Nothing good, nothing bad. It's just the whole day. But I think those moments are actually where the true essence of this exercise comes out, because the point is to write down 3 things you're grateful for. It doesn't matter how small or insignificant, and I firmly believe that there are good components to every day, even the worst of days.
Just like many words, gratitude has different interpretations, but I like the one that refers to it simply as an expression of appreciation. The key word being expression, making it known how you feel. As I go through life, I've come to realize that gratitude is not a denial of life's challenges, but rather an affirmation of resilience and growth. What I like about this exercise is that it teaches me to find joy in small things. In reflecting on the day's events, I'm able to call to mind those little moments that played a role in making my day worthwhile. And I've learned to acknowledge them more often because I believe life is precious and I don't want to take anything for granted.
So this is a great exercise and all, but what I love the most is when after weeks, months, even years, you look back at stuff that you had written before and you start to just replay all the memories, and you sort of appreciate where you were then and where you are now. There's something therapeutic about just looking back at stuff you had written before, and just, you know, if you're a religious person, seeing where you would say God had answered your prayers, and seeing where you've learned certain lessons in life, and seeing where you've changed your direction in life. I think this exercise can be a very powerful tool in creating that sense of awareness and just a deeper sense of gratitude within you. And you don't have to use an actual journal and literally write things down if you don't want to. As I mentioned, I'm not a journaling person, so what worked for me was just doing it in my phone, and that's just as good. And actually, the phone might be the best way to go if you're worried about people finding your journal, maybe, you know, finding your deep, dark secrets or whatever. So the phone might be a more secure way, since you'll have that on you all the time. But I highly recommend you try this exercise if you haven't already, or at least some version or variation of the exercise. It's very simple, doesn't take a lot of time at all, and I can honestly say it makes you feel better about yourself and about life in general. You know, when you look at the news today and like everything going on in the world, there's nothing that depresses you as quickly as just watching the news, to be honest. War is ravaging countries, communities. Innocent people are suffering, children are dying, people are starving, families are being torn apart. I always wonder, I try to separate myself or analyze my situation as from like an outside perspective. I have a roof over my head, I have food, I have friends and a community. I'm very fortunate and blessed, and so it's easy to find things to be thankful for as well. But if I were in the shoes of people who are suffering every day, I wonder if like how difficult or how easy it would be to find things to be thankful for. And there's something so powerful about seeing people that are able to keep their humanity in spite of those situations. And so this is just really I guess just a call to be just mindful and just spare a thought for people who are in those kinds of situations, because while we reflect on what we are grateful for, all the things, the opportunities that have come our way, it's important to remember that there are people out there who would like to have the opportunities we have, who would like comfort, just very basic rights, basic experiences in life, who don't have them. And I think in doing this exercise, it also helps to spare a thought for those people, because that is, in my view at least, how to play your part in some way. So I hope that makes sense. Keep this world in mind and the suffering that is happening, and just be very grateful for what you're able to achieve in the comfort of your home, your communities, and your routine.